Marvel Legends Maximum Series Spider-Man. Let's take a look. Popping this guy in a box, it does feel like the other Marvel Legends, but it does feel solid. Not quite like an import, you know, imports for me feel very light. This guy feels solid. But I gotta say from the off, when I first popped him out, his shoulders were a little bit stiff. I got a little bit worried, banged him in some hot water, and now beautiful, moves everywhere. Anyways, you know how it is. I put a podcast on, started pausing him, and let me tell you, this guy, honestly, this guy is awesome. Is he worth the price? Let's take a look and let's discuss. In regards to those accessories, let's take a look at all the webbed ones first. We've got the stringy webs. A lot of people make these. They're sold on Etsy, do you know what I mean, with wire, so it's bendy wire rather than this, you know, this floppy plastic. But I do think that this floppy plastic does serve a purpose. You know, I've been able to get some nice poses using these two bits of webbing. Next up is the web, you know, the open web that he's firing. I don't know what you call this. I think it's like an enemy catcher or something like that. A great piece, you know what I mean? It sits on that stand that we get. We've seen the stand before with, you know, the Jada Toys. It's not as thick as the Jada Toys ones, but yeah, it does the job. You put a bit of webbing on it, it looks like he's shooting it. The next bit of webbing is the blob webbing. This has been described many ways, but yeah, for me, it's not great. Let's face it, but you know, it serves that purpose of like, I tell you what, I'm gonna get a different photograph with a different pose, shooting a different type of web. So realistically, it's just giving you options. Last but not least, for the webbing is the webbed shield. I quite like this. I don't think I'm gonna use it too much after this review, but I do like it. It has got the clip, and I know people don't like the clip because it can be a bit flimsy, it can break. Just so watch it when you're putting it on. But yeah, I like this. It's got some decent poses and therefore a little nice addition to the accessory box. Next up, we're going to look at them hands. So when it comes to the hands, I'm going to start with the, you know, the expressive hands, the web crawling hands people call them. And look at them, they're good. They do the job, don't they? Do you know what I mean? We can get them different poses, put his fingers on the floor, brilliant, put his fingers in the air, awesome. But I will say that on my hands, I don't know if it picks up on a camera, it looks like it's got one web line missing. Do you know, it's just short of one web line around the upper part of the palm. But that's being super critical. I'm never going to take a photo that close to these hands, so I'm good with it. Next up is the other hands. So it's the, I'm about to shoot some web hands, but I've got my web fingers ready and locked and loaded. These are great. Again, offer alternatives to, you know, normally we just get the web shooter. Ba-ba! These are just, one's shooting and one's about, you know, it's just a different take on, you know, the hand shooting the web. Again, after I've paused him around and played with him a bit, I'm not too sure I'll use these that frequently, but it's good to have them options. The next hands that we have are the web shooting hands. So we've got the steel glove, we've got that web coming out of the palm of the hand. I've got to say, I do like these. When you put them on a figure and you're pausing them around, it's just, I don't know, it makes the shot look a little bit better. Do you know what I mean? It just, that translucent web on the palms, spitting it out, looks good. And I do like that they've done them differently as well. They've done two types of webs. So they've got the webbed shooter and then they've just got the single blast shooter. So yeah, I like these hands. Next up is the human hands. I think everybody said this who I've spoke to or seen do a review so far, is like, it would have been nice if these were pausable and not fixed, so the forearms just plug in and the hands don't move. So you're only going to get a few positions out of these. Really, in regards to articulation with these hands, you're not going to get too much. They add to the character, you can get a couple of poses out of them. They do look good when they're on, but for me, I don't think there is necessity for this figure, if I'm honest. The last pair of hands are the web holding hands. So we get the fists already on him. We get the web holding hands just for them straight, bendy, flimsy bits of web, and you know, they fit perfectly. You know, you put the web in, you can hold things. You sort of get these a lot with the import figures, and now we've got them for Marvel Legends. I can't recall if we have got a Marvel Legends with that web holding hand. Please hit me up if we do, but I'm not sure I've seen it in my collection so far. Next is onto the heads. We've got the unmasked head. For me, this, I don't know who this Peter Parker is, if I'm honest. It doesn't give me any flashbacks to any Peter Parker I know. It's not the best. If I'm honest, it's definitely not the best. And definitely for a figure of this type, of this ilk, I would have loved a really good face sculpt, do you know what I mean, just to have with this guy. As far as the second head for this Spidey, all my web lines are great, which is fine. The only difference to the head that we already get that comes on the Spidey is the thickness of the, you know, the black of the eyes. For me, that's all I can see really, the difference. For a 50 quid figure, are they different enough? That's, you know, for other people to decide, you know, for the money that they spend. But for me, it's a bit, I don't know, I would have liked a different head, if I'm honest. Maybe, you know, like for the Secret Wars figure, we got them squinty eyes, didn't we? That like and that changed the figure completely when you put that head on. That would be ace. That would have been ace, an ace addition to this guy, but it weren't to be. Last but not least, something that when I first looked at it, you know, the spider sense, I thought to myself, you know, I'm never going to use that. But then I actually got it in hand and I put it on the figure, started taking some photos. I'm like, it actually really does complement the figure. You know, it fits the masthead, it looks good, it does a purpose, and it adds to the character. And that's what I ask myself every time it comes to an accessories part of this, is when I look at a figure and I've got the accessories that I've got, do they enhance the figure? And the majority of these do. Can I take different photos with the figure? Yes, they can. For a lot of people, they're just going to go into you know, an accessory bin, which is fine. But for me, I like posing them around. I like playing with different photos, taking different videos, and you know, and trying out the different accessories. So for me, though we could have had better accessories, I do like the ones that we got. Now it's time to talk about articulation. We're going to do top to toe like we do in any figure. We start with the top. So we've got the neck and the head. So the head is on a disc and ball, and that gives us the up all the way and gives us down all the way, which is great. It's also got a ball joint for the neck, which I think most Jada figures have as well, which just provide us with a bit more, especially when you're doing crouch down pictures and things like that, and you want to get them power poses, it just allows that head to come a bit further up like naturally it would do. So it's a great new addition to this figure. The other ones, we've got the butterfly shoulders. We've seen on a lot of Marvel Legends before, and these work great. I feel that these go back further than most do. I think, you know, when they first did the butterfly shoulders, they didn't go back, it didn't utilise the space. This figure absolutely utilises the back and forward of the butterfly, and you know, you need that for Spider-Man. You want to get him on some crazy poses in the air, arms out, arms in, arms crossing, and allows for all of that. This figure has the ab crunch and the diaphragm. I actually like Jada's approach with the double ball. Do you know what I mean? So the diaphragm ball and then the waist ball. But the crunch and the diaphragm ball absolutely works for this figure. We've seen it on other Spider-Man too. I can't remember off the top of my head which ones, but we have, I think Secret Wars had a crunch and a diaphragm. And we just saw that we could get, the posability was fantastic for them figures. So going down his arms, we've got the bicep swivel as you'd normally have. We've got the double jointed pinless, which is nice. We've got the forearm. Now, I've got to say, the forearm twist I've not used much. When I was swapping me, you know, because you get the hands, the human forearms, I swapped them over, but I took the hands off first, and then I lost which forearm went where. So it took me a minute to get them back in right place. So always keep your hands on when you swap in the forearms, just so you remember which forearms for which side. Next up is the wrist. You know, we get the wrist articulation that you'd get with, you know, with any figure. We've got the different hinges. Most of the hinges have the horizontal hinge. Apart from the web hands, they have the, you know, the vertical hinge. So like a bit like a weapon, just like a gun hinge would have. Then coming down to the hips, we've got that drop, which is about, you know, 2 mil that we get on the drop. And obviously that's to assist with the legs doing splits, kicks, forward, backward, all of that goodness that we need from drop down hips. And it works really, really well, I've got to say. In regards to how far they come up and how far they go back, you know, splits, he gets nearly a splits. But because of that drop down hip, coming forward, he gets some serious range with that front snap kick. And then going back, doesn't get much going back, even with drop down. Doesn't get too much, probably 10 degrees or something like that. But it's enough for what you need it for. We get a thigh swivel like we do with all Legends, double jointed knees, kick himself in the bum, no pins. We've got the boot swivel, which, you know, I feel that we need for most figures, especially for the crouching. It's really good for that balance. Ankle rocker and disc, which work well. You get some really good range out of it. And then finally, we get the toe articulation, which is not something I normally go after, but with a Spider-Man, you know, because he does a lot of crouching down, like really low crouching down, toe articulation really helps there when you're doing some poses. So yeah, I'm glad this figure has that. So overall, does this figure have the articulation I need to pose him in the things that I want to pose him in? Absolutely. He's absolutely sickness and chips to pose around. It feels fluid. I always judge articulation with how easy it is to get him into the next pose and how long it takes me to do some poses. So like for figures that don't have good articulation, I could spend an hour doing, I don't know, 10 poses or something like that. This Spider-Man, you can just bam, next pose, bam, next pose, bam, next pose. So he's really good for posing about, and that is because of the articulation scheme on him. So for me, the articulation on this figure is a defo win. When it comes to the sculpt, for me, I like a bigger book. I'm from the animated series Spider-Man, so I like a bigger one. I like this guy, he's a little bit smaller, a little bit leaner, but looks good. Starting with a head, both heads look good, they just look similar in regards to the Spidey heads. They both got that raised nose and mouth bit, do you know what I mean? They've got the sculpt around the eyes, where that exists. But yeah, both sculpts are nice. And then, like I said before, when we come to the sculpt of the other head, the alternative head, it's just the sculpt that they've actually chosen isn't great. The way that it's executed is nice. I would have rather just had a different Peter Parker head. That's all it is with that one. Looking at a couple of other Spider-Man and looking at the chest and the body and the torso of this guy, there's not much difference at all. Do you know what I mean? Looking down the arms, there's no real difference in the arms, if I'm honest. I'm looking at the retro one, and you know, the one that we got in the 2-pack, there's not too much difference. Obviously with this one we get the, you know, the forearms that are detachable, so we still get the detail in them, but you know, just they're similar. In regards to sculpt, they are similar to what we've already got or already have. I've got to say, I like all the different sets of hands. I think they're sculpted really well. Do you know what I mean? Nothing that I can call out here that goes, oh, this figure doesn't have. This figure has all the hands and sculpt that I want from a hand. Continuing moving down the front, what I can see in the legs, obviously they're a little bit leaner. They're not as muscular as, you know, the ones that I've got. Like I said, the retro one and the 2-pack, they're a lot more, well, they're just bulkier because they're bigger figures. But, you know, in regards to definition and sculpt, that's fine. They look the same. Do you know what I mean? We've got the same sort of lines and patterns on the shins, and the feet are as they are. Nothing too dissimilar in regards to the feet, not I can see. Turning him round, going up the back, you can see that some of the other Spider-Men have more definition, like where the hamstrings are, the back of the thighs. They've got a bit more definition. But this guy's a leaner dude, isn't he? So he might not have those, you know, those super muscles at the back of the. They've all have that little bit of sculpt around the glutes. Do you know what I mean? Where it connects and the suit stretching. I think coming to the back, so the lower back and the upper back on this figure, I think has a bit more detail than we've seen in the others, especially on the lower back, but also on the upper back as well. So it's a great sculpt, you know, happy with it. Last but not least, let's have a look at the paint apps. Now, you know, picking a Spider-Man and thinking about paint apps, you've got to have them web lines, haven't you? The web lines have got to be on point. So looking at my web lines, luckily I've not got any craziness on top of the head. I saw some, you know, images on Insta showing that people's web lines didn't match, but going through my figure and having a look down him and round, I'm honestly really happy with how the lines have turned out. There's no QC issues that I can see. The spider on the front, mint. I think the spider on the front for me as well is just big enough. Do you know what I mean? I like it that size. I thought I'd like a smaller spider, but on this book, I like the spider. The spider on the back is really good, but obviously when you move his shoulders forward with the butterflies, they put the long legs. I don't think we needed them, to be fair, but I understand why they did it. But yeah, it just makes it look a bit naff when you stretch him, when you put both shoulders forward. But in all honesty, you know, if you look at the pose that he's got with both shoulders forward, he ain't never going to pose him like that, let's face it. Looking at his head, like I said, the web lines all look good, the detail in the eyes, it's fantastic. I've not got any QC issues, which, you know, for this price point, you'd expect not as well. And one thing that I'd like to add around this is the amount of web lines that we get with this figure. You got loads, absolutely loads, in comparison to like the retro and the other Spider-Man that I've got. They're not as close. The only thing I would say, for me, as a sort of lover of Spidey, I would have liked a little bit of a lighter blue. Do you know what I mean? The lines from the, you know, the red to the blue are fantastic all the way around this figure, but I like a lighter blue, if I'm honest. But yeah, looks great. Calves look great. Belt's good. Feet are alright. Yeah, happy. Really happy with the paint job. Okay, let's see some size comparisons. So it comes down to this. My final thoughts on a Maximum Spider-Man. I love him. It's a double-edged sword, that, right? So like, he is the best Spider-Man in my collection. The best, hands down, best Spider-Man in my collection. Now, I've not got the Renew Your Vows Spidey, and I've not got the Amazing Fantasy Spidey. I never wanted the Amazing Fantasy, to be fair, but the Renew Your Vows was definitely one I was looking at. But to get him now on the aftermarket, he's pricey. So I may as well get a brand new Spidey with all the new things, and this is the one that I got. And everybody's agreed that 50 quid, it's not, this shouldn't be the price point for this type of figure, but everybody loves it. So where does that leave us? You know, with Marvel Legends, with the Maximum series, I have no clue. And you know what? It's not for me to decide. I just know, bought this figure, paid what I paid for him, but he's awesome. I love him to bits. I've loved every minute of opening him, posing him about, playing with him, and, you know, reviewing him. It's been ace. And that's all I can ask for any figure that I buy. Did I enjoy it when I opened it? If the answer is yes, success.